Higehiro was an anime that came out during the winter season of anime in 2021, and on the surface it doesn't really seem like a really big deal, and it seems like just another typical anime that comes out in every anime season. However, this was not the case in Japan, as in Japan this anime was very controversial and it had a lot of people talking about it, and many people had different opinions about the series. So why was this anime so controversial? Well, before we talk about the controversy, let's just talk about what is Higehiro overall and what is the story that it was trying to tell. Higehiro is about a series in which we are introduced to our main male character, Yoshida, who, after finally having the courage to confess his love to the person he likes, that being his boss, not only does he get rejected, but after that rejection, he decides to drink too much alcohol, which of course shows us once again that he did not take the rejection very well. After drinking too much, he decides to head home, but on his way home, he notices a girl who still looks like she's still in high school. Of course, concerned as to why she is all alone in the middle of the night, he decides to try to talk to her, and he discovers very quickly that this girl named Sayu is all alone, and she reveals very quickly that she has no place to stay. And this is where she decides to tell Yoshida that she will do anything as long as he lets her stay at his place. And when I mean she said literally anything, she was being serious. She would do anything just to stay at a place. Even though Yoshida still was at a drunken state, even he knew that was not a good idea, showing us very quickly that this guy has morals. Of course, with that being said, he still lets Sayu at his place, but of course nothing terrible happens. The very next day, however, as soon as he's no longer drunk, he realizes what he got himself into and realizes that now he's in a very messy situation. But very quickly, Yoshida starts to discover all the things Sayu has done, because she reveals very quickly that she's a runaway and that she ran away from home. Not only that, but she's been asking people to stay at their places, and in return she will do a favor. Now, most of the time the people that she asks these things are men, and of course I don't need to explain why that's bad, and that's obviously something terrible that she shouldn't be doing. Of course, Yoshida, finding out all about this, is disgusted by this. He tells Sayu that from now on, if she wants to, she could stay at his place, of course with one condition: that she has to do all the chores around the house, and she has to make sure that the house is kept clean while he's at work. Of course, Sayu is shocked by this, but she doesn't deny it, and she very quickly accepts his deal. And of course, as time goes on, they start to care for one another, and it's very clear that they started trusting each other more and more. So much in fact that Sayu decides to reveal to Yoshida her dark past, in which she reveals that the reason why she ran away from home was because not only did she not have a great relationship with her mother, but also it's because one of her closest friends ended her own life after being a victim of bullying. And the worst thing is that Sayu witnessed her friend end her own life by seeing her jump from a building. Of course, this traumatizes Sayu, and because of this incident, this makes her relationship with her mother 10 times worse, as it's very clear that because of all this, now her mother is even more upset with Sayu, which at this point Sayu has had enough, and it's very clear that she has reached her breaking point, and so she decided to run away from her home, pretty much running away from her problem. Of course, while Yoshida is upset and sad at the same time that this is happening to Sayu, he tells her very quickly that she needs to confront her problems. While it is very tough, running away from the situation isn't going to do anything, and Sayu just needs to come up with a solution to deal with all her problems. Obviously, this is something that Sayu has probably been wondering for a really long time, but probably never took action, as she was afraid as to what was going to happen. She didn't know if what she was doing was going to be the right thing, or if she was going to make the problems worse. But later on in the series, both Yoshida and Sayu decide to go to Sayu's home in order to face the problem head on. And while it wasn't easy, because as soon as Sayu came back to her house, obviously her mother wasn't very happy to see her, as it goes to show us once again just how bad the relationship between Sayu and her mother is. And of course, their conversation doesn't really go that well, as in the beginning there's just constant arguments, and it's very clear that both Sayu and her mother disagree in a lot of different things. But ultimately, it was Yoshida who came up with a solution to this entire problem, as he begged Sayu's mother to let her return home, as Sayu needs her family more than ever. And while Sayu's mother was still hesitant, ultimately she agrees that she will let Sayu back at her house, and that ultimately once she's done with high school and once she is fully grown up, she can choose whatever lifestyle that she wants to do, and she could choose the path that she wants to go. And this will be the end between the conflict of Sayu and her mother. And of course, because of this problem being solved, Yoshida and Sayu both have to say their goodbyes, as both have to go their separate ways. However, Sayu promises to Yoshida that she is going to come back and it is not going to be the last time that she sees him. All Yoshida can do is smile as he returns home once again. 2 years have passed by, and once again in one night, as Yoshida was heading home, he once again notices a girl alone in the middle of the night, and this girl is none other than Sayu. Yoshida walks towards Sayu and tells her what she is doing, to which Sayu tells him that she has no place to stay and that if he could let her stay at his place, and that will be the end of Higehiro. Now, after hearing this basic summary of this anime, you may be wondering, why was it so controversial in Japan? Well, based on my research about this controversy, the biggest reason why this was so controversial was because for those who don't live in Japan, there's actually a law in Japan that makes it illegal for an adult to have an underage person on their house. And it didn't even matter if the underage gave consent, it was still illegal to have someone underage in an adult's house. Obviously, the only exception to this law would be if the adult and the underage person are family related. But that's about it. If there's an adult that is caught with an underage person in their house, that can result in that person having serious trouble with the police. Of course, this can only happen if someone actually reports it, but with that even being said, there's still a very huge risk that many Japanese do not want to take because it's something that they don't want to deal with. So yeah, that's pretty much the big reason why this anime got so much controversy. On one hand, you have people saying that this anime was encouraging people to commit this crime, which, let's be honest, that doesn't even make any sense because that's the same argument some people use for the whole violent video games controversy stuff, where people say that violent video games are the reason why kids are becoming violent, which is not the case whatsoever because it's not really the game's fault, that's more of an individual's problem. But of course, they're always going to use this argument, and this is, I feel like, the exact same thing that it was being used with this anime. People are saying how the anime was encouraging people to try to do this crime, which I'm pretty sure that was not the case, because on the other hand, you have people arguing back saying that no, it was trying to spread the message of the dangers of underage people running away from home, which makes sense because it's not far from reality in which there have been cases of people underage running away from home and then of course dealing with a lot of terrible things that happen to them. Because let's be real here, the world is a very dangerous place sometimes. There's always going to be very dangerous individuals and people who are going to take advantage of the vulnerable people, and I think that's what the anime was trying to show us. It was trying to show us that Sayu was doing a lot of questionable things in order to just simply have a place to stay. And of course, this sheds light on the disgusting people that are willing to let this all happen, that are willing to do this to someone who is underage. That's one of the main points of Higehiro, is to show us that the world is a very dangerous place. It's not trying to make people commit these kind of crimes. No, it's trying to show us that sadly there are people like Sayu in the real world that are willing to do anything in order to have a place to stay, and how sadly not everyone is going to have the same kind of thing that happened with Sayu, in which she was able to meet someone like Yoshida who not only respected her, treated her well, but also did not take advantage of her. And speaking of Yoshida, there was actually another part of the controversy as well with this anime, which was the fact that apparently some people were calling Yoshida a groomer because apparently he was taking advantage of Sayu. Which I feel like the people who are saying this have either not watched the show or watched out of context clips. Like, I feel like those are two possible ways people got this idea, because if you have watched the series, even like in the first couple of episodes, Yoshida is very quick to refuse any kind of seducing that Sayu makes. Like in the first beginning of the episodes, Sayu tries seducing Yoshida, but he's very quick to not let that happen because once again, he has made it very clear that he likes older women. He likes people that are around his age, not underage people like Sayu. I still to this day have no idea why many people draw that conclusion about Yoshida. Like, it's very clear from just even like the first couple episodes that the guy has morals, and it's very clear that he's not into underage people. But you know, it's not surprising that there's going to be people always making stuff up, because the people who do this, they realize that there's always going to be a few people out there who are going to believe wherever they listen. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire controversy of Higehiro. Of course, this series isn't perfect, but it was very clear that it was trying to spread a message, and that message being that the world can be a very dangerous place, and how people who are at a young age running away from home isn't a great idea, because the world is a very scary place sometimes, and there are very dangerous people that are in this world, unfortunately. So yeah, overall I think this series was very solid. Once again, it's not perfect, but it really did show that it was trying to have good intentions by spreading a message about the dangers of running away from home, because no one deserves having to deal with the experiences that Sayu had to deal with. I mean, the things that she went through are just horrible and disgusting, and you feel bad for this girl. Like, some of the things that she did were just really messed up, and it was very clear that many people were taking advantage of her because of her vulnerable state, which is just so disgusting to see. But thankfully in the end she got her own happy ending, and it's very clear that she's moving forward with life. Sure, the past will never go away, and she's probably not going to forget all the things that happened to her, but now that she realizes that there's a future ahead of her and she has nobody to thank but Yoshida for encouraging her to become a better person and face her problems head on, she has a very bright future ahead of her. And that's pretty much the entire video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.